give in to the lesser fight. My body aches to be satisfied. My weakness comes and goes. My weakness comes and goes. I'm reaching out for the easy high. Please fortify this strength of mine. My weakness comes and goes. My weakness comes and goes. My body aches to be satisfied. My weakness comes and goes. My weakness comes and goes. I'm reaching out for the easy high. Please fortify this strength of mine. My weakness comes and goes. And go. My weakness comes and goes, it goes, it goes. My weakness echoes in my soul. Oh, it echoes in my soul. My weakness comes and goes, it goes, it goes. I give in to the lesser fight. My body aches to be satisfied. My weakness comes and goes. My
To remember, no matter what, hope is our strongest weapon. To God be the glory. Amen. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, you have heard these words.
I have asked Chris McDonald to lead us in the national anthem. Please join us, Chris. Thank you, Chris. I call upon Dub Harrison to please lead us in the pledge to the United States flag. The American flag, yes, sir. Texas, our Texas. I have asked Janice Holt to please lead us in the singing of Texas, our Texas. And for the Texas Pledge of Allegiance, I call upon Gail Stannard. Gail, if you would please lead us. Under the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. And now I appoint the proxy committee. For the proxy committee, I appoint Rolando Garcia, Dr. Alma Arredondo Lynch, and Carlos Cascos to serve on the proxy committee. And now I call upon Virgil Cruz, our secretary, to call the roll.
Good afternoon. If you're represented here if you're holding a proxy, say proxy, please. Chairman Alan West. And we're waiting on a technical correction, is that correct? Do you know if that's forthcoming or? Okay. Vice Chair Kat Parks.
Here.
Secretary Virgil Cruz, I'm here. Treasurer Tim O'Hare. General Counsel Susanna Dockepill. Assistant General Counsel Rachel Hooper. Parliamentarian Richard Hayes. Sergeant at Arms Mike McCloskey. Chaplain Rich Stoglin. Finance Chair Ed Trevis. Historian Dr. Tim Wesley. RNC Committeeman Dr. Robin Armstrong. RNC Committeewoman Tony Ann DeShiel. Rhonda Anderson. Dr. Charles Blankenship. Jerry Fisher. Stephen Stanley. Janice Holt. David Covey. Gwen Withrow. Chris Bro. Joe Miller. Bill Fairbrother. Don McDonald. Chris McDonald. Deborah Feit. Tom Nobis. Maggie Witt. Abraham George. Ann Gephardt. Steve Atwell. Susan Wright. Jill Tate, correct? Warren Norrid. Are you Dan Tully? Thank you. Tanya Robertson. H. Scott Apley. Jill Glover. David Wiley. Don Elliott. Roy Morales. Olga Lasher. Fernando Trevino Jr. Gail Stannart. Rolando Garcia. Susan Fountain. Matt Patrick. Becky Green. Sean Cheban. Edie Sinclair. Joe Waltz. Dr. Alma Arredondo Lynch. Frank Lopez Jr. Grace Jones. Oh, you made it. Carmen Calderon. Naomi Narvaez. Terry Harper. Debbie Duke. John Carr. Leslie Thomas. Stephen Broden. Mary Jane Avery. Jack Barcroft. Chris Coons. Mark DeRazio. Marion Stanko. Fred Rangel. Morgan Graham. Carlos Cascos. Robin Hayes. Steve Evans. Robin Cooper. Mark Dunham. Dion Starnes. Britton Brooks. And Carol Precure. If I could get the proxy committee, Brandon, you have the amended one, right? The amended proxy for Chairman West? Jerry?
Stand at ease, please.
his own, but it's not working. He's going to bring another one. Hello? Hello there? Hello there? Good evening. I don't think this one's working either.
Check, 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 check. Check, 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 check. Check. It's the cable. Try it.
Hello there? Hello?
Yeah, there you go. It's the cable. Go ahead, Rich. Richard. It's the cable.
Testing, 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 testing.
Let me swap cables.
Testing, can you hear me now?
I'm coming.
Testing. That's loud enough.
Thank you, Virgil. Yeah, I just had to change the cable. We're good.
Test, test. Can everybody hear okay?
Okay, members, just a couple of announcements. Anyone campaigning on behalf of candidates should not be permitted. That includes signs, that includes shouting and disturbances. If anyone breaks decorum, will be asked to leave by our Sergeant at Arms, Mike McCloskey. Mike, where are you? Would you stand up and give a friendly wave to everybody, okay? Thank you, Mike. Members, we do want to take the time to make a very momentous but a tragic announcement, and that is over the loss of one of our own. As some of you know, we recently lost Jeff LeBlanc. Jeff served as a precinct chair. He was chairman of the RPT Coalition, the Republican Liberty Caucus of Texas. He had served on the platform committee of the state convention multiple times. And I would like to share a remembrance of him with all of you. This man was a mountain. So this was taken from a Facebook post that was made, and many of those who loved him really felt this captured him in his contribution. It never ceases to amaze me the boxes we paint politically to keep others in the them category. She's a rhino, a libertarian, a far-right extremist, an evangelical, a moderate, establishment, Tea Party, sometimes far more inappropriate things, not worth repeating. Jeff LeBlanc was about freedom. He welcomed rational, cohesive conversations where folks come together for intelligent, compassionate discourse. He didn't care what boxes others had drawn you into, or even where you might have limited or drawn yourself. He wanted to talk about principles, about policy, about the issues, about extending freedom to each one of us. As someone who's never fit neatly into a box my entire life, I really appreciated this about Jeff. Losing Jeff LeBlanc was a tremendous blow to Texas and to freedom, as he had written on his own page. His mantra was, with liberty comes responsibility. And with Jeff's liberation from his earthly body, the responsibility to pick up the torch falls squarely on those of us who love freedom. I did not always agree with Jeff. In fact, oftentimes I did not agree with Jeff. But I always respected him. And at the Republican Party of Texas, our hearts go out to his beloved wife, Kay LeBlanc, and to those who loved him. Both Kay and Jeff were hospitalized for over a week, fighting COVID post-vaccination. Kay has considerable medical bills and now funeral expenses. And I want to offer that for those of you who love Jeff and who are inspired by him, please reach out to Jason Vaughn. And Jason, would you stand? Where are you, Jason? Stand up and wave for just a moment. Jason served as a pallbearer in Jeff's funeral. And I would ask for all of you to please stand for just a moment of silence. Thank you all. Moving forward, I call upon Carlos Cascos to report the findings of the proxy committee.
Madam Vice Chair, thank you. There were 4 active proxies. That's it.
Give me a second.
Right, Virgil?
Thank you, Mr. Cascos. And a quorum having been determined, I call the meeting to order. The first item of business on the agenda is to conduct an election to fill the vacancy of the SD 31 committeewoman.
Section 171.003 of the Texas Election Code provides that the State Executive Committee shall fill by appointment any vacancy on the committee. To be eligible to serve as a replacement to fill in the vacancy in a membership representing a senatorial district, a person must reside in that district. A majority of the Executive Committee membership constitutes a quorum, and a person must receive a majority vote of the members voting. Article 3, Section 4 of the SREC bylaws provide that in the event of a vacancy on the SREC, a majority vote shall fill the vacancy in accordance with the provisions of the Texas Election Code and these bylaws. If there is no objection, we shall follow the same procedure as we used for filling the vacancies of SD 17 and 24.
Madam Chairman, point of order.
Yes, sir?
Give me a second. This is a little planet dice.
Turn the power on. It's on the bottom. Switch on the bottom. On off.
It's on.
Hello. Hello. Do we have a substitute?
Brandon.
Oh, that's better. Madam Chairman, the nomination or the election of replacement to fill SD 31 is out of order and should be stricken from the agenda. It was not added timely and was not noticed properly. Furthermore, it's out of not authorized by the rules, Robert Rules of Order, for inclusion in the special meeting, and it should be stricken. I'm happy to go into the reasoning for why this is. I did talk to the parliamentarian this week. I also talked to the Rules Committee chair. You referenced Article 3 as to why we should be holding this now. That article actually isn't even pertinent. I want to read to you a little bit about what is pertinent. This meeting was called by the chairman. Let me turn to my page in the rules. Give me a second. This meeting was called by the chairman under Article 4, Section 3, vacancies in office of the chairman. The parliamentarian and I and Steve Evans, the Rules Committee chair, spoke yesterday and on Friday about Article 3, Sections. Hold on. Excuse me, Article 5, Section 1, conduct of meetings, Section 2, notice of meetings. Neither of those actually apply, because if you look at Section 3, and I'll read to you exactly what it says, this notice provision for the meeting of electing a new chair shall be superior to and governed by all other notice provisions contained in these bylaws. However, notwithstanding the foregoing, if a chairman submits in writing to the SREC an irrevocable letter of resignation, setting a specific day and exact time certain in the future as to when the chairman's resignation will be effective, and such resignation is accepted by the official committee of the SREC, then the chairman may, in place of the vice chair, call a meeting of the SREC to be held on the day the resignation takes place, provided such a notice was sent to the SREC at least 30 days prior to the meeting at which the new chairman will be elected. That's what brought us here. He resigned, advised us of his resignation at the meeting in Tyler. He sent out a notice that came from June on the 30th of June. On the 10th of June. The resignation of the committee woman was not submitted until the 29th, so it's not possible for her to have even been on the notice at the time the notice went out. So the notice requirement for this meeting is 30 days, not 10, not 12. So this item needs to be stricken from the agenda today and moved to its proper place, which would be the next quarterly meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Patrick. Your point is not well taken.
I'm sorry, can you explain why you think that the 30-day notice, which is specified right in the rules, doesn't come into play?
Do you wish to appeal the decision of the chair?
Well, I wish for the chair to explain why the plain language that's in the rules is somehow not applicable. Are we no longer following the rules of the bylaws?
We're certainly following the rules of the bylaws.
It says right here that you have to have a 30-day notice.
Thank you, Mr. Patrick. If you don't wish to appeal the decision of the chair.
Yes, I do wish to appeal the decision of the chair.
Do we have a second? There is an appeal from the decision of the chair. Is there any discussion?
Yes, I'll discuss just a little bit. Hold on one second. I want to turn to Robert's Rules of Order.
Thank you. I'd like to call on the parliamentarian. Richard, if you could please address.
I think the confusion might be there's two different notice provisions. The 30-day notice provision has to do with calling a meeting for the election of the chair. But under the bylaws, we have three kinds of meetings. We have statutory, regular, and special meetings. And the special meeting purpose, which this is a special meeting, but it has an additional agenda item, in this case to fill a vacancy. It requires, and this is under Article 5, Section 1, Conduct of Meetings, says that may be called by the chairman. The chairman did that to add this particular agenda item, and the rules only require 12 days for that particular item. So you have a single special meeting with two different agenda items when it required a minimum of 30 days notice, and a second agenda item for 12 days notice. And to take Matt's point, when he was kind enough to call me yesterday, and I appreciate that. If y'all ever have a question on the rules or disagreement, if you'd be kind enough to call me in advance, it helps everybody speed the meeting along. I think his other concern was that even if you had 12 days notice, did we have 12? Because headquarters sent out the notice on the evening, and here we are meeting at 2, so there wasn't 12 24-hour periods. But under the rules of computation, under the government code, under the rules of civil procedure, talk in terms of days, not in 24-hour periods. So the computation rule is you don't count the day that it was mailed out or sent out, but you do count the day of the event, whether it's at 9 a.m. in the morning or at 4 p.m. So it's the humble opinion of the parliamentarian that it was timely.
Thank you, Mr. Parliamentarian. Yes, Mr. Patrick.
I appreciate your opinion that it's two different sections, but it's actually not. If you look, as I said, the Section 3, vacancy of the office of the chairman, specifically says, notwithstanding the foregoing, which means that all the other provisions related to notice are thrown out. That's what notwithstanding the foregoing means. And so the 30-day notice is actually required, and you can't subdivide the notice into two different periods, because when the notice goes out, the notice goes out. That's it. Anything that's supposed to be on that notice needs to be on the notice at the time that it was put out. Furthermore, I want to thank you for saying that it's a special meeting, and therefore a special meeting is how we should look at this. If you want to look at it that way, then I want to refer you to Robert's Rules of Orders, where it says, and I quote, a special meeting, the reason for special meetings is to deal with matters that may arise between regular meetings and that require action by the society before the next regular meeting. This does not require action before the next regular meeting. We typically deal with this during the regular meeting. This does not meet, it is not an emergency item. She didn't expire. There's no reason, even according to our bylaws, for this to be put in on a special meeting. It is a regular meeting item. So it does not belong on the agenda for this meeting.
Thank you for that opinion, Mr. Patrick.
And for reference, that's on page 91, or 92, 93, or 91, 92.
Is there any other discussion? The chair recognizes Bill Fairbrother.
Bill Fairbrother, Senate District 5. The parliamentarian and Rules Committee chairs that I respect say it's the right decision. And in rebuttal to the last statement, I would say not disenfranchising the Senate District from their ability to participate in the choosing of our chairman is an emergency issue and timely because we can't wait for the next meeting or our Senate District brethren out in West Texas will be partially disenfranchised today. So I almost suggest the full chair.
Thank you, Mr. Fairbrother.
In response, an emergency item is defined in Robert's rules, and this does not meet the definition.
Mr. Patrick, thank you. If there is no other discussion, those in favor of sustaining the decision of the chair will say aye. Those opposed to sustaining the decision of the chair will say no. So I want to be very clear here so that you all understand is that those of you who say aye agree that we should proceed with the SD 31 election. Those who do not indicate by saying the word no.
Madam Chairman, is this a majority or a two-thirds vote?
This is a majority vote. Thank you. Okay, so those in favor of sustaining the decision of the chair say aye. Aye. Those opposed to sustaining the decision those opposed to sustaining the decision of the chair indicate by saying no. No. The ayes have it, and the decision of the chair is sustained. Moving forward, recall that the rules are the same procedure as we use for filing the vacancies of SD 19 and 24. Those rules are number 1. Brandon, are we able to pull these up on the screen by any chance? And if not, I'll keep reading. Nomination. Nominations shall be made by an SREC member from the floor. Number 2, speaking. After nominations have been made, the nominees shall draw numbered lots to determine speaking order. Each nominee shall have a total of 5 minutes to speak, including those who wish to speak on behalf of the nominees. And number 3, voting. After all nomination speeches have concluded, voting shall be conducted by a secret paper ballot. A majority vote is required for election. Each candidate may appoint 2 observers to observe the counting of the ballots. In the event no nominee receives a majority vote on the first ballot, then there shall be a runoff election until a majority vote is achieved. Hearing that there is no objection, the same procedure shall be followed. The floor is now open for nominations for SD 31 Committeewoman. Yes.
We have a roll call.
Yes, we have.
Good afternoon, Madam
asked to nominate Tisha Crow. Tisha Crow has been nominated.
How are you, ma'am?
Great. How are
Brittany
you?
Brooks, SD30. I am proud to nominate my good friend Rhonda Lacey.
Rhonda Lacey is nominated. Are there any further nominations? If not, the nominations are closed. I asked the secretary to prepare slips of paper. Looks like number 1 and 2. I need someone really tall to volunteer to hold our bucket.
Or ping pong balls.
The ping pong balls, all right? Brittany Brooks, thank you.
Y'all might be the political powerhouses here, but I've got something I can do. So.
There's 1 and 2, and let's have them draw.
Okay, for Tisha Crow, who was nominated first, Naomi, if you would like to come and draw for Tisha to see what order she speaks in. Okay. For Naomi or for you? She drew number 2? Okay. So Tisha Crow will speak second. Rhonda Lacey will speak by default. We'll go first. Each nominee shall have a total of 5 minutes to speak, including those who wish to speak on behalf of the nominees. The candidate who drew number 1, Rhonda Lacey, and those who wish to stand or speak with you, we invite you up to the stage to speak.
Madam Chair, request for information. Did we vote on the supplemental rules and allow for amendments? No, we did not. Did I miss that?
There was no further objection.
Without objection?
I took it without objection. Yes, sir. Okay.
They say big things come in small packages. Oftentimes, the very intelligent colleagues had questions, they had issues come up. I would turn to Rhonda sitting beside me and say, what are they talking about? And she would give me a very layman's terms approach. She did not treat me like I was a 37-year-old. I was treated with respect, and she is a fantastic leader with 50 years experience in the party. I am not even 50 years old yet. So, Ms. Lacey, thank you, ma'am.
Who loves a happy warrior? Because that's what Rhonda Lacey is, as the chairman of the Mighty Texas Strike Force and the co-chairman of the American Mighty Strike Force. Rhonda has an unrivaled reputation for energizing, engaging, organizing, mentoring, and implementing block walking teams This body, please to vote for Rhonda Lacey, SD 31. Thank you, Brittany, Mary Jane, Chris, and Mark, and all of the rest of you for standing with me at this time. I do think this position at this time would benefit from firsthand experience from this body. My opponent has a list of precinct chairs and friends supporting her, and I commend her for this. I would expect no less from any active county chair. But this area has 37 counties to work in, and you have read some of the support that I've gotten from people all the way to the border of Oklahoma. I can produce a great list for you because of all of our victory projects, but you have read about my current work, and I've been doing this for over 50 years. We have less than a year to build a coalition to heal, grow, raise funds, and put on a convention and get this party ready for November 2022. I am the best person to fill this vacancy at this time. I'm Rhonda Lacey, and I would humbly appreciate your vote for SREC SB 31. And our candidate that drew second is recognized, Ms. Tisha Crow. Members, I'm so excited to stand here once again, and I'm very pleased that I was asked to nominate Tisha. Tisha has done a wonderful job in her county, and she values the principles of our party. I ask you to vote for her, and I ask that you trust me one more time, with this vote. Thank you. Good afternoon, my name is Tisha Crow, and I have spoken to many of you, met many of you, and others I haven't gotten to meet yet, so it's nice to meet all of you in person finally. I want to ask you for your vote because there are many things that this party needs. One thing that we need right now is to be able to do something that we've done in Ector County. When I walked into my first board meeting as chairman, the boardroom looked a lot like most time when you go to vote at 8 a.m. on a Saturday morning or Friday morning, the people that are first out to vote. That's what my boardroom looked like. That didn't reflect the people who were living in our county, who were voters who have come out since then. We have people in our counties, all of us, and in our state, we have a changing demographic, a changing voting population. And if we don't reach out to them, we're going to be in trouble. And that is something that I, in my county, have been very blessed to have a board help me do. We have not only increased our voters from under 10,500, I believe. 10 years later, last year, we had over 44,000 voters. That is something that, thank you. What we've been able to do is make huge inroads into the Hispanic population. My boardroom now, when you walk in, does not look like the majority of the people in this room look like. I have a precinct chair that has pink hair, ponytails, a nose ring, and she's a professor. But I can send her to our city council and she can fight for those conservative values better than almost anyone in this room, I can promise you. And if we do not reach out to people who are different, who don't look like us, who think like we do, they have the same principles, they have the same values, then we are going to be in trouble. And that is something I can do and I have done. And I will continue to do it. This state has to remain red, but it has to do more than that. It has to go further. We need to not have that soft red, that pinkish color. We need to be blood red. And this is something that we can do if we continue to work in these avenues that Ector County has begun to do. It takes money to do these things, but fortunately, that's something I'm really good at, is raising money. It doesn't seem to become a problem for me. So I would love the chance to serve with you, serve for you, serve Texas. I ask that you vote for me in this race, and I am so grateful that you allowed me the chance to come up and speak to you. Thank you.
As everyone in this room knows, election integrity is profoundly important to Republicans. And so therefore, I would like to appoint the following non-SREC members to the Tellers Committee. Glennis Chester, President of the Texas Federation of Republican Women. Kara Chasteen, Legislative Director of the Texas Republican County Chairmen's Association. Tony Ann DeShiel, our RNC committee woman. And Robin Armstrong, our RNC committee man. Robin Armstrong will be serving as chairman of the Tellers Committee. If I could have each of you come up, please. Additionally, each nominee may have 2 observers to witness the vote counting. Candidates, if you would please identify your observers. Grace Jones and Carmen Calderon have been recognized for Rhonda Lacey. If you would please join us at the table. Oh wait, you all have to vote first. Hold on, I'm jumping the ship. That's okay. I don't get on my belly for anybody.
You want to pick a color?
If you would, Tisha, identify who your 2 observers will be as well.
Red.
So,
Sure. So Jill Glover and Naomi Narvaez. We're learning on the job over here. Okay. Ballots will be distributed. On the ballot, please write down 1 name to fill the vacancy. The chairman, vice chairman, and each member of the SREC or SREC's member's official proxy shall be entitled to receive 1 paper ballot. Thank you to the 4 members of the Tellers Committee for distributing the ballots. We'll stand at ease.
Madam Chair, Gail Stanner, SD15.
You're recognized, Ms. Stanner.
Oh, thank you. Can you tell me how many votes that we will be counting today, maximum?
Yeah.
How many people are here?
For this vote, it's 63. The one big. So if you vote 63, there's 63 members and there's 1 vacancy. Everyone else has that.
Gail, it'll be 63 because there's 1 vacancy. Okay. Okay, has every member of the SREC entitled to vote received a ballot? Still working. We will stand at ease while the votes are being collected. And we'll wait upon the tellers committee to now count the votes.
Everybody, and then we have some results for the SRAC Committee Women's Race for Senate District 31. For Rhonda Lacey, we have 36 votes. And for Tisha Crow, we have 27 votes. So 36 for Rhonda Lacey and 27 for Tisha Crow. Thank you, ladies, for running. Congratulations, Rhonda Lacey.
So, of the number of votes cast, we had 63 votes cast. Rhonda Lacey received 36 of those votes. Tisha Crow received 27 of those votes. Rhonda Lacey, congratulations. You will be serving as our new SD 31 committee woman. And Rhonda, would you like to take the microphone and address the audience for just a minute? Rhonda, come on up. Come on up.
I'll be brief. I know y'all like that. Thank you very much. I really am honored at this, and we do have a great worker in Tisha Crow. We've got a lot going on out there in West Texas. We like that red out there. We want to bring it all over to the blue. So we're going to be here to help you. And thanks again, SRAC.
Okay, and with that, we move on to the adoption of the supplemental rules. I call upon Steve Evans, Chairman of the Rules Committee, to speak to the recommendation from the Rules Committee to adopt the proposed supplemental rules. Those were copied in an email to the SRAC members. Brandon, do we have the ability to bring those up on the screen? Thank you. Okay.
Madam Chair, unless there's an objection, I would waive reading and I move adoption. Second.
Come on up, Leslie. It's moved to adopt the proposed supplemental rules. Are you ready for the question, or do we have amendments? Okay, Troy, can you turn up the volume of the microphone on the floor, please? There we go.
Can I recognize Madam Chair?
You're recognized, Leslie.
Okay. Madam Chair, I move to strike, and rule number 4, to strike everything after votes will be, starting with the word cast to the end of the sentence. And I move to insert a record vote. And I'd like to speak to my motion if I get a second.
Okay, you may speak to your motion.
At the convention, we elect our chairman, and we do it in our caucuses, and they are a private vote. They're by ballot. But the SD vote is not private. It is announced. So everyone knows how their SD voted. I think that our constituents have an interest in knowing how their SD has voted in this election. There are arguments against this that have to do with feelings, but I think that this is a vote that is has a lot of precedence. When we vote in, like I was on the city council, if I voted for someone to be on a committee or a board, it would be a public vote. And when the Senate votes to approve the president's appointees, it's a public vote. So I think that whenever we hear that it's a private vote and it has a significance that might affect how we're represented, I think we expect transparency. And for the record, I request that this be a record vote. This vote be a record vote.
Leslie. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And can you please, Leslie, if you would just read your motion as amended for those of us who can't see the screen?
So the motion will be, votes will be by a record vote.
Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair, Steve Evans, SD 38. There's precedent for this. We've conducted this type of election in this body by secret ballot historically. To address some of Leslie's points, you do vote by secret ballot in your Senate district caucuses by an individual slip of paper, or if it's tallied, it's reported as a whole.
Excuse me, Mr.
There was
You did have a second, yes, sir.
Matt Patrick seconded.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I took your job.
No, please, go ahead.
Now I've lost my train of thought. Thank you, sir. There's absolute precedent for it. To address Leslie's other point, we are not a government entity. We're a private body. This body can make whatever rules it wants. And we have an absolute need, no matter how the vote turns out today, to come together as a body and work together. We don't need this hanging over our heads as who voted and retribution because it's a record vote. Each and every member has the opportunity to send out an email if they like, or go on Facebook and publicly announce to their Senate district how they voted if they want. But to move on and move forward after this vote, we need to continue with our long history and precedent and keep this a secret ballot. I rise against this motion. Thank you.
Madam Vice Chair John Carson, SD 22. I rise to argue against this amendment as well. While a record vote is beneficial in some areas, in this specific situation, the probabilities or possibilities of retribution, as that term is being used, is correct. That if we do this by secret ballot, it gives us the opportunity to come together after the vote to lock arms with our chosen leader and not to be subjected to scrutiny or ridicule because of the way someone voted that may be against what someone else had voted. So for the purpose of unity, I think this rule should be adopted as originally presented and not as amended.
Thank you, Committeeman Carr.
Madam Chair, I have a request for information.
Yes, Ms. Danner?
When the Committeeman Thomas suggested that the vote that we are going to make regarding the election of a chairman of the Republican Party of Texas be a record vote, she also said she wanted the vote on this amendment to also be by a record vote. The question is, if we vote against it, does it negate both of those options?
Okay, so my understanding is that in debate, she voiced the fact that she wanted to have a record vote, but there's currently no motion on the floor. So if someone would like to make the amendment to add that, they would be obligated to make that amendment at this point in time.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Danner.
Call the question.
Madam Chairman, point of information. Do the partners have standing to speak to these? I know that we don't have any standing to vote, but do we have standing?
You do not, according to the rules. We have, Mr. McDonald has called the question. To those of you, I guess we will signify by aye or nay if we want to. There's nobody else seeking to debate. Okay. There's no motion on the floor right now. Come on back and make a motion to add a record vote.
In my understanding, it's not a motion, it's a request. Am I wrong? Okay, so I request a record vote.
Is there a second? Okay, this is not debatable. All in favor? Yep.
Point of order.
Here it comes.
Point of order, Madam Chairman.
Yes.
Can an amendment cover two topics like that? Two separate items? No?
That's why I took a second motion.
Take a second motion.
The motion on the floor is to have a record vote on the amendment only.
That is what we will vote on first.
That is correct.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I rise to a point of order. I'll direct you to Article 5, Section 5, voting. Each member of the SREC, including the chairman and person represented by proxy, votes shall be taken by roll call when demanded by at least 20% of the members present or required by rules. If it's not been a demand of 20%, a record vote would be out of order.
Well taken. I need to write it.
Point of order, you have to have a vote to understand that it's 20%.
Madam Chair.
No, I need to look at her motion. We're back to the original motion.
Madam Chair, Mark Dunham, SD 29. I believe the question was called by, before an amendment to have a record vote the question was called prior to trying to add on a record vote.
We are on the original motion. That is correct. I'm looking for the motion to read to y'all because I don't have it in front of me. Okay, I'll bring the microphone. The motion we'll be voting on is votes will be by record vote. All of those in favor will express by stating aye. Those in opposition will state no.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Yes, sir. Steve Evans.
I raised the point of order that this was out of order and caused a 20% demand to vote. You took my point of order as well taken. We've moved on.
All right. We're going to read the bylaws so people know what it says. And if you don't have those, if you go to Article 7, Section 5, Subdivision 1. I think I'm in the right place. Is that the section you were quoting, Steve?
Section Article 5, Section 5.
Okay, it reads, each member of the SREC, including the chairman and vice chairman, shall have the right to cast their individual vote. Votes shall be taken by roll call when demanded by at least 20% of the members present or required by the RPT rules. The RPT rule is Rule 7B, and none of those are applicable to this particular instance. So the point Steve was making is to have a roll call vote requires a demand of 20% of the members. So far we've had a motion and a second. Leslie's inquiry is, well, how do we get 20% unless we have a vote? Normally the way that's done, Leslie, is we circulate a piece of paper, you get 20% of the people to do it. Maybe that's impractical now since we're in the middle of the vote. But it does require not just 2 people or 5 people. requires 20% of the SRC, which is there's 64 voting members, so that would be 13 members would need to
May I ask?
propose a rule to have it by a roll call
May
vote.
I ask if those who would like a roll call vote to stand?
That's our current practice. That's what we've been doing. The chair asks for to see how many people.
Absolutely. Those who are in favor of having a roll call vote, please indicate that by standing.
Point of order, this is, okay, if we're gonna have a roll call vote on having a roll call vote, correct?
Thank you all. It does not meet the threshold for 20%.
What's the number? 13.
The proposed amendment is out of order. Coming back to the original motion. No, it's 20%. The amendment itself is out of order. Thank you, Virgil. Okay, is there any further discussion among the supplemental rules? You are voting, we would move back to vote on the supplemental rules would be the next thing that we would vote on. Because this would move the vote back to, we would vote on the entirety of the proposed supplemental rules. Because we're not on the amendment. No, we're not on the amendment. It was ruled out of order. Richard, if you would please share your parliamentary.
Amendment is properly seconded and debated.
Okay, the reality is you have a rule that says if you want to have a roll call vote, it requires 20% of the body to be in favor. So you don't have 20% to make the proposed amendment. So therefore, the amendment is not in order.
Yeah, that is not correct. That is not correct.
The move was for a record vote on the proposed amendment to rule number 4. The move to have a record vote failed. We have not yet voted on the amendment to rule 4. We need to vote on the amendment that was proposed by Leslie. We haven't voted on the amendment proposed for rule 4 yet. We need to have a vote for that.
Can't make any clearer. It's out of order.
An amendment to the temporary rules is out of order? This body's not able to amend the temporary rules that have been recommended by the Rules Committee? Is that what you're ruling, Mr. Parliamentarian?
We don't rule, we advise. I read the rule under the bylaws.
Yeah, but that was on how we voted, not on whether we voted. And that was just a request from a member that we have a recorded vote. And that failed. That means we don't have a recorded vote. It doesn't mean that we don't vote at all.
Mr. Patrick, the ruling from the chair is that this was out of order based on the ruling that the parliamentarian read. You're welcome to appeal the decision of the chair if you wish to.
I appeal the decision of the chair, and the decision I'm appealing is that we be allowed to vote on the recommended amendment for Rule 4. That's all that we need to do.
There is an appeal to the decision of the chair. Is there any discussion?
Thank you, Madam Chairperson, for OSD4. This is why I rose with a point of order. I was asking, are we asking for a record vote on whether or not to have a record vote? The question failed because we didn't have 13. But the motion to amend still remains. So we have not addressed the motion to amend for a record vote.
Thank you, Mr. Breaux.
I'm going to beat a dead horse. I disagree with Richard on this. A roll call vote can be added to any motion on the floor at any time by a 20% threshold. I get where Richard's going. If that's going to fail, this should fail too. And in the sake of not wasting time, I would ask this body to vote no and take that decision away from the chair, and let's have an up-down vote on this amendment and move on.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Those in favor of sustaining the decision of the chair, say aye. Those opposing to sustaining the decision of the chair, say no. Okay, we're back to the original motion. Okay. The original motion by Ms. Thomas was that votes will be cast by a record vote. Is there any discussion? Any further discussion? Oh, I'm sorry. Chris called the question. All right. Those in favor of sustaining the decision? No, I'm sorry. Those in favor of voting for the motion made by Ms. Thomas that votes will be by a record vote, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no. Okay. All right. Those in favor of Ms. Thomas's amendment that votes will be cast by a record vote, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed to Ms. Thomas's motion, please signify by saying no. No. Thank you very much. Okay. My ruling is that that motion does not pass. Thank you. Thank you. Are there any additional changes being proposed to the supplemental rules? Or are you ready for the question?
Yes.
Okay, hearing no amendments, no additional amendments. If there is no objection, the proposed supplemental rules are adopted as written. The proposed supplemental rules are adopted. Please clap, right? Okay. The next item of business is the election of the state chairman for the Republican Party of Texas. And y'all, I want to take just a moment and thank all the members of the body, all of the candidates who are about to put their names forward. This is a tremendous responsibility. This is the most important, greatest state that we have in our United States. And the direction of Texas, we all know, will determine the direction of the United States of America. And so the decision by the voting members of this body today will have a tremendous impact, not just on individuals, not just on our state, but on our entire country. I want to share with you that I'm pleased to have spoken with the candidates, at least those that I know of, who stepped forward and who will be nominated very shortly. I've spoken with each one of them and believe that each one of them has a plan for Texas and to take us forward in a positive direction. For the last year, we've marched to the orders of We Are the Storm. Today, we have the opportunity in selecting a new chairman to go forward together and provide the light. We need to provide the conservative light to our voters to enable that we select the right Republicans, place them in office, and so that our conservative policies, beliefs, principles, and ideals can be enacted. I know that whomever is selected today, I will put my full weight behind and stand 100%. This is my promise to any of the candidates that are selected. This is my promise to all of you. And so lightly, I don't put this before you lightly, but the next item of order is that the floor will now be open for nominations. Are there any nominations for state chairman?
Susan Fountain, SD 16. I'm proud to nominate one of our own, Matthew Rinaldi, for chairman of the State Party of Texas.
Matthew Rinaldi is nominated.
Stephen Stanley, SD2, second Matt Rinaldi's nomination.
Chris Moreau, SD4. I want to say thank you for the tribute you gave earlier, and keep doing what you're doing. Your job is very difficult right now. I've stood where you are. Man, it's tough. It is with a heavy heart that I nominate Jeff LeBlanc.
Fred Rangel, SD 26.
Yes, sir. I am.
Fred, no,
Yes,
just
sir. Mr. Rangel.
recognized. Thank you. I nominate Bill Birch for state chairman of the state of Texas.
Mr. Rangel, if I could have you pause for just a moment. Chris, I just wish to recognize your very symbolic gesture in nominating our dearly departed Jeff LeBlanc, and to thank you for that. And please, to his wife, Kay, please know that you have the entire Republican Party of Texas standing with you. So thank you. I'm sorry, Mr. Rangel.
So.
Yes, sir. Okay, so you wish to nominate
Bill Birch
Bill Birch.
for state chairman.
Is there a second?
John Elliott, SD 13. I second his nomination for Bill Birch. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Elliott.
Madam Chair, Janice Holt, SD3. I'm very proud to nominate my counterpart from SD3, David Covey, for chairman of the Republican Party of Texas.
David Covey is nominated. Is there a second?
Madam Chair, Steve Evans, SD 28. I second that nomination.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Ms. Stanko.
Madam Chairman, I'm Marion Stanko, Senatorial District 26 Committeewoman, home of the Texas Cradle of Liberty, the revered Alamo, and the left half of Bexar County, both geographically and politically. I rise to nominate a person I have known for almost a quarter of a century. That's about 25 years. He has served as RPT Political Director, Executive Director, and member of the RNC staff. I humbly request nominating our friend and former staff member, Chad Wilbanks.
Chad Wilbanks is nominated. Is there a second?
Edie Sinclair, SD 18. I second.
Are there any further nominations? Nominations are now closed for state chairman. I ask the secretary to please prepare slips of paper, 1 through 4, or I guess ping pong balls we're doing, representing a number for each nominated person. Each nominee, please come forward to draw for speaking order. Drawing will be in the order nominated. I need a representative for Mr. Rinaldi, Mr. Birch, Mr. Covey, and Mr. Wilbanks, please.
I'll wait for everybody to go. Let's wait
Hold
for
on.
all 5.
Mr. Rinaldi's representative? Okay, Susan Batten for Mr. Rinaldi. 1. Okay, Mr. Birch, Representative Mr. Birch, please. 4. Representative for Mr. Covey.
2.
2. And representative for Mr. Wilbanks.
I wonder what that's going to be.
5.
Come back.
Okay, we will now move on to candidate speeches. As a reminder, candidates will be permitted 10 minutes to speak with the option of having other people speak for them within the 10 minutes of allotted speaking time. Candidate that drew number 1 is Matthew Rinaldi. If you would please join us at the microphone.
Hi. So when making these tough decisions, like most of you, I pray for guidance, guidance and clarity, that God's will be done. And I think about my children and my grandchildren, and the decision that is made, will it advance their liberty and freedoms, or will it suppress it? With that being said, I've known Matt for about a decade, and historically, he has exhibited strong, fair, courageous leadership, and he continues to do that. Having worked for a Texas Freedom Caucus member, I can tell you I've seen that firsthand. If Matt sees an opportunity to protect our freedoms or defend our liberty, he just does it. And a lot of people don't know it because he's not that guy that goes out and brags about it. He's just that kind of a humble servant. Matt is a very successful professional, tremendous fundraiser, and a brilliant strategist. The RPT needs that in leadership right now going into these special sessions and redistricting. He is also committed to making sure the RPT maintains its independence during primary campaigns, expanding our voter base to win big, that's capital letters big, in 2022, and to continue the RPT election day operations to ensure election integrity. Now I'm going to be honest with you guys. Texas is in peril. We all know that. And now is not the time to go back to status quo. Please join me in voting for Matt Rinaldi for our next RPT chair.
Thank you, Tanya. Thank you, Madam Chairman, fellow SREC members, and guests. We, the SREC, have been called upon the convention to carry out the convention business of our party. It was given by the delegates to those who elected us. Today, we are charged with the election of a new chairman, as our past chairman is vacating the seat. Many things have changed because of the circumstances of this past year with the coronavirus pandemic. Need I remind you of the 2020 convention? The workings of our party forced us to go online was far from the best. This change and other variables have affected how we attend party business at the convention, the in-between business, and in the workings of our state elected officials. We as a party need a leader who has legislative experience and can navigate well to lead this party in the strong conservative voices of the people of Texas. One who can unify the party and lead us forward with strength into the upcoming elections. Matt Rinaldi, I believe, is a wise choice for the party because of his legal mind, his legislative background, and his ability to get things done. He is sharp, he has energy, and knows the conservative principles of the RPT. He has personally helped me to navigate this special session of the legislature with the legislative priority that I am tasked with at leading the charge. I believe that he will work hard to bring the party together, to raise funds, and to help see the will of the people brought to the decision makers in Austin. I am pleased to introduce Matt Rinaldi, our next chairman of the Republican Party of Texas. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I hope to be a member of your group soon. But good afternoon. The last month has been quite a whirlwind, especially for me, but one that I've cherished being a part, being able to talk to so many of you over the past month about your hopes for the party. As I've gotten to know so many of you, your passions, your respective visions for the future of the organization, I've learned so much. I hope we'll continue to learn from each other going forward if I become the next chairman. And I'm truly humbled to those of you who have given me your support, and I'm proud of the ideological diversity among the members who have. I want to assure you that if you entrust me with your support, I intend to seek election for a full term in convention. And in those discussions, 4 themes predominated. You wanted someone capable of managing this complex organization. You wanted someone who was fair and could bring unity to such a diverse group. You wanted someone who would continue to work to advance our legislative priorities. And lastly, for every one of you, fundraising is paramount. As those of you who have run a small business know, there's no substitute for life experience when you're talking about management. For 8 years, I've been director of a publicly traded company with a market capitalization of $300 million, and have experience with CEO, board relations, shared decision-making, and how to manage the personnel and financial reporting of a mid-sized corporation. For 4 years, I've been the chief legal officer of a small healthcare company. I was tasked with restructuring the entire organization, evaluating pending lawsuits, and deciding which ones to keep and which ones to settle. I've managed businesses in good times and bad. I've made mistakes. I've learned from them. And I have a particular talent for finding the right people to work with me in an organization and delegate. I assure you RPT will be under experienced, capable leadership under my tenure. Second, you voiced a concern for how I would promote unity within an organization with such diverse viewpoints. As a state legislator who served under a speaker who didn't always offer members with differing views the respect they deserve and fairness they deserve, I've witnessed firsthand the detrimental effects this can have on a body that needs to work together to advance a common mission. Diversity of viewpoints is good and can cause an organization to flourish when every member is respected regardless of ideology. Transparency is a must, and a devotion to the rules, bylaws, and our organizational missions necessary to empower individual members. Third, as we prepare for another special session that's already gotten underway, where we'll have an opportunity to pass additional GOP priorities. We've heard from delegates across the state that they've enjoyed the increased involvement the Republican Party of Texas has had pushing those legislative priorities over the finish line. I have very unique experience working with the complex personalities in the legislature and bringing legislative priorities over the finish line, including the sanctuary city ban, the strong sanctuary city ban we passed in 2017, the Church Security Act, and the budget and defunding Planned Parenthood, all of which I wrote while I was in the legislature. This is why legislators like Matt Krause and Matt Schaefer, who are carrying our RPT priorities in the legislature, have endorsed my candidacy for Speaker. And it's why groups like Texas Right to Life and Texas Eagle Forum have as well. Our legislative priorities matter, and as chairman, I'll remain dedicated to advocating for those priorities, but not at the expense of fundraising. The lifeblood of any business or any organization is revenue. And all revenue comes from donations used to host our convention and build the infrastructure we need to win in 2022. As a candidate for office, I've raised millions of dollars from donors across the ideological spectrum of the GOP. In fact, I was one of the top fundraising representatives in Texas in the 2016 and 2018 cycles. And probably the only one whose top 2 donors came from opposite ideological wings of the party. My first priority as chair is fundraising. I assure you, and I have a track record that proves I can and will be successful. Friends, I believe we need a chair who will focus on all the aspects of building the Republican Party of Texas, one who will look forward instead of litigating the past, and one who will satisfy the desire of the delegates for a strong voice for our legislative priorities. Perhaps most importantly, We need a chair who work with and not for elected officials. RPT, its executive committee, must remain strong, independent, and effective. Almost every time a chair is elected, we hear a degree of pessimism about the condition of the party. I think a lot of that's campaigning. It's as if we get missing tile syndrome, where you can look at a magnificent mosaic and see the one missing tile out of thousands. We're the Republican Party of Texas. We've won every statewide election since 1994. We've held both houses of the legislature for about 20 years. Even where we're not perfect, we're winning. Imagine what we can do if we come together, build the foundation of our party, and execute even stronger. Where there's room for improvement, there's reason for optimism. And I have every reason to be optimistic about the direction of our party. Thank you. God bless you all, and God bless Texas.
The candidate that drew second is recognized. If David Covey would please join us. Take the microphone.
My name is Janice Holt. I'm SD3 Committee Woman. I'm proud today to stand before you after nominating for Chairman of the Republican Party of Texas, Mr. David Covey. As we stand in the crossroads of July 2021, I believe that we have a candidate that is poised to lead us through the specific circumstances that face us today. His 15 years of Republican Party experience began as a page at a Republican Party of Texas convention. From there, he went on to be precinct chair, county chair, and then president of the TRCCA. His path has included RNC National Committee Man Delegate, and now as SREC Committee Man from SD3. I've known David for about 10 years. I'm very familiar with his work ethic, his grassroots experience, and his love for the values of the Republican Party. Most importantly, he's a man of faith. I've seen him personally more than one time express his love for his country, his love for his party, and his love for his God. I believe that he is uniquely qualified to lead the Republican Party of Texas, and therefore it is my honor to ask that you support David Covey for Republican Party of Texas Chairman.
David had told me I could only have 30 seconds to a minute. I'm not sure I can do that, but I'll try. I didn't prepare a speech. David will get up and tell you about all the issues that are important to us. But for me, bringing this body back together is extremely important. All of you can agree we're torn to pieces. We've got email chains going back and forth. We don't know what's right. We're arguing over rules, making points of order. We don't know what we're doing. David can bridge that gap and bring this body back together so that we can work on the issues that are important. A year is expired already in our terms. We've got a convention coming up to deal with. We're underfunded for our convention. We still don't have any good answers as to what we're doing with our convention center. Those are all questions that need to be answered. And they're going to take this body coming together to support our officials committee and our chair to get it done. I believe David Covey is the man for the job, and he can tell you that his response to the other key points.
Hello, Republicans and State Republican Executive Committee members. Thank you for the opportunity to address you today. It has been a privilege and an honor to serve as your colleague on the State Republican Executive Committee, where we have made decisions which impact our party, our state, and our country. And today we are tasked yet again with the hard responsibility of making arguably the most difficult decision that we will make this term. And if you give me the honor to serve as your next chairman, I am prepared to lead us to victory. I'm prepared to lead this party to a stronger Republican Party. And I am prepared to lead us to fight the anti-America agenda of President Biden. And I am here ready to lead to fight against the attacks that are coming on our party. It is time to build our structure. It is time to build our organization. And with that, we can pass legislative priorities. I'm not seeking this chairmanship for title or ego, but I'm seeking to lead and strip the Democrats of their hope of being able to win at the local, the state, and the federal level. I want Texas to be part of kicking the Democrats out of the U.S. House in 2022 and firing Nancy Pelosi. And I want Texas to play a part in taking back the White House in 2024. We can do that. But we can also make gains in our majority in the Texas House and in the Texas Senate and ensure that we put strong, committed conservatives in office so that they will fight for our legislative priorities. There may be a few of you who are on the fence. And if you are, I invite you to take the step with me because I am solid ground. And we will move this party forward together. I am prepared to face the pressures of the political class who are coming and saying that our party is irrelevant. Our party is not irrelevant. And if we will put our shoulders to the grindstone, we will fill our war chest and work together, we can overcome any challenge in Texas and make sure that we stay a conservative-led state. And I understand that for you, it's important that we have the qualifications and that we have the skill sets. I am the candidate that has the skill sets to build the party organization. But being best qualified candidate is in itself meaningless if those qualifications come at the expense of compromised values. And the good news is that I offer you both the qualifications but also the values. I am a committed and principled Christian. I believe in faith, in family, in freedom, and I will fight with every fiber of my being for this party and to inspire others to join us in this worthy fight. You might ask, what is your specific plan, David? Well, I will give you some specifics. If I were fortunate enough to be elected, I would appoint the standing officers. They're subject to confirmation. And following that, I would form a working group for the purpose of evaluating future convention sites and plans and make sure that we are planning 6, 8, and 10 years out on our convention process. I will be at the Austin office tomorrow morning and we'll begin meeting with staff one-on-ones to develop our plan and see where they fit in the best. We would take time to go over to the Capitol and testify on Senate Bill 2, which is by Senator Charles Perry, to prohibit men in women's sports and show that our legislative items are important. On day 2 of the staff will be given the responsibility of planning a legislative dinner during the October special session and use it to fundraise as a volunteer awards dinner as well to recognize Texans across the state who have worked so hard for our party. I promise you that I will work swiftly and diligently to strengthen the current situation of the Republican Party and live every day to fulfill our mission. Throughout the world, people have dared to dream of opportunity. And we need to remember that the Republican Party stands unequivocally for that dream. We will defend that dream. We strive to preserve freedom given to us by God and implemented by our founding fathers embodied in the Constitution. We recognize that the traditional family is the strength of our nation, and it is our solemn duty to protect innocent life and develop responsible citizens. We understand that our economic success depends upon free market principles, and if we fail to maintain our sovereignty, we risk losing the freedoms to live those Republican ideals.
As I stand before you today, having served at every level in the Republican Party, I humbly ask for your vote, and I ask for a chance to lead us to victory. Not only to victory, but to crush the Democrats and prove that Texas will remain a free, conservative state as long as we have breath in us. Thank you. God bless you, and God bless America.
Thank you, Mr. Covey. Distinguished Vice Chair, Cat Marks, all distinguished members of the SRAC and fellow Republicans, it's an honor to stand here today to let you know a little bit about what's going on in the PRCCA under the leadership of David Covey. We actually have states coming up from all over the United States trying to organize Republican county chairs because of what they see is happening here in Texas. David reached out to the youth. He revitalized their enthusiasm after the Trump train, and now we have 100 counties, as I speak, that have endowed scholarships for graduating seniors to leadership schools so that they can be good Republicans and better college students. Not only that, but he's reached out to all the migrant families and the poor families, the families we may have forgotten. The ones that couldn't afford Trump signs in their front yard. They couldn't even afford to go out and eat. But this year, because of the Trump programs, they had enough money to buy shoes for their kids, to go to school for the first time at new schools. They could tell those kids you can be anything you want to be in America. I forgot. David Covey didn't, and neither did Donald Trump. I hope you can tell your kids that, because I hope you vote for David Covey. Thank you.
Okay. Our candidate that drew third is Mr. Bill Birch. Mr. Birch, you drew fourth, and the candidate, Mr. Wilbanks, drew fifth. So, Wilbanks drew fifth. There were 5 in. There was no number 3. So, Mr. Birch, it is your turn at the microphone. Please go ahead.
Can you call us back there? We didn't have a ping pong ball at the top. We only had 4 ping pong balls. You only had 4 balls.
Ms. Nanko, Chad Smith. Okay, thank you. Yes. Is our timekeeper ready? Yes. Okay, whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon. My name is Fred Rangel. I'm the SREC for Senate District 26. And first of all, I want to applaud every single one of you because you made it. You made it here. I know it was a trip, and yet everyone is here. And I even asked myself, I wonder if we're going to have quorum today. So I appreciate you, but I also appreciate something that I know about the entire Republican Party. We have differences of opinion, but in the end, when the decision is made, you go with the majority. That's us. That's how we do it. Today I'm here to tell you that one of the reasons and one of the things that I was assessing across over our past year and a half was the fact that we were facing challenges that we didn't have before. We had a convention that they pulled the rug from us and caused issues, and we're still trying to resolve some of those. We have had issues where many have done a good job tried, and then we have failed as if against a liberal body, and obviously we still work hard. We represented a situation in our country where we believed there was fraud. And yet, in my mind, I assessed and I said, we need to be able to overcome this, and I call that you consider Bill Birch. The reason is because this man is a man of conviction. If you look at him in my eyes, is when you see a battle, you see the battle fatigue in those that have the scars. And that's what I see. I see battle tested. I see those that have conferred with him and agreed that he has the savvy and understanding and the diplomacy to be able to handle problems among us that maybe we can resolve fairly and honestly among us. So I encourage you. There's many things that I could say, but I have a minute. And therefore, I turn the floor over to Bill Birch.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Bill Birch. You know, I'm the oldest candidate running. And think about this. We've had some young people that run for office like AOC and the gang. And we have some old people that run for office like 69-year-old Ronald Reagan. I'm 69, and I'm going to be 70, just kind of like Donald Trump whenever he ran. So I promise, like Ronald Reagan, I will not hold the youth and the inexperience of my opponents against them. We have some problems in this party. And that is we go to up and down with every change that we have. And it's bad. It's bad for raising money. It's bad for everything. We need continuity. The first thing I'm going to do, or one of the first, is I want to develop a mentoring program whereby we bring together the experts in the different areas and bring together the people that want to be chairman and teach them how to be chairman. Take them out to meet the big fundraisers so that they can develop a rapport with them so we don't have this up and down. We need that continuity if we are going to continue. That's why I'm running. It's because we don't have it and we're in trouble. We need to get out of it, and we need to develop that by bringing in former chairmen to help in developing and mentoring the programs. Transparency is another thing that we need. Absolute total transparency. We need everyone in the SREC to understand, just like a corporation. You guys are the board of directors. You need to understand exactly what the monetary aspect and standing of our RPT is. It's important. We don't need to have questions. We don't need to go down and audit. We need to find out. We need money. Right now, in 2019 to 2020, in that cycle, we spent almost $23 million. That's what the RPT spent. Right now, in the last 6 months of this year, we have raised $1.8 million. We have a burn rate that's going to last for 4 to 6 months. 4 to 6 months. Ladies and gentlemen, when the Steve Ministeri came in, and I helped Steve Ministeri get elected, we were down $700,000 with $300,000 in the bank. We were facing bankruptcy. And we went together, and we went around the state, and I made some introductions, and Steve raised the money. If it was not for Steve Ministeri, who's sitting in the back there right now, this party would not exist today. Steve Ministeri, that man back there, saved our party to make it to what we could be here today. We have other things. We have to raise money. I have, and Steve knows, some of you out there know who I know. I have friends that contributed $12 million to the party just a few years ago. They won't do it anymore. But I can bring them back. I've talked to them. I will raise $28 million before the convention and another 10 at the convention. I was setting up a convention for real estate investors prior to this, and I had booth sales committed for $10 million, and we can do that. I can transfer that over, and I can get most, if not all of that, into the RPT. And we have to have that money. If we get the money, we need to go out to all different areas of the state. But what we need to do is be able to pay the SREC members their travel expenses. Whenever I was appointed by the Supreme Court of the state of Texas to be a public director of the State Bar of Texas, when we went places, they paid. My wife was appointed as a fire commissioner, state fire commissioner for the state of Texas. They paid her travel. We need to pay our travel because we need to be in El Paso. We need to be in Brownsville. We need to be in different parts of the states. But that expense is huge. Why not raise the money? Let me raise the money so that you have the money. So it's not coming out of your pockets. So it's not a challenge to you whenever we get out there. Because otherwise it's going to be difficult for you to continue. Well, the convention. I put on conventions. You know, in 2004, they came in and some idiot comes up to the Arlington Republican Club and they say, are you going to be helping Tina Benkiser? He says, yes. Well, how much are you getting paid? He said, nothing. Because I'm making so much money out of the convention. He's getting $100 a room now. Plus he adds on for the convention. I go in to the Menger Hotel and get the Menger Hotel for our delegates for $80 a night, and I give the ballroom to TFRW at no charge. I do that again whenever Steve is elected. I got the Magnolia at less money than what the RPT was charging for the Holiday Inn. I can do this. I know how to do it. I negotiated a deal in Houston for zero charge to the RPT. Of course, the consultants added $150,000 on top of that, but I negotiated it at no cost. I know how to do this. I was in the hospitality business for 20 years. I understand it. I know these guys that own these hotels. On liability, you don't have any liability insurance. I don't know if you know this, but it was put in originally by Steve. It's gone. There is no insurance being paid now. I will put that back in. And remember that whenever they did redistricting 10 years ago, Steve was sued for $7 million. I know redistricting. I've done redistricting. I know every aspect of it. I did it at the request of David Dewhurst. So I'm the only one that's ever done redistricting that's running for this office. I've done it. I know that we need to work with our office holders. I put together a program where we went out and talked and brought the office holders into North Texas and the SREC and Platform Committee members, and we went over it. And we got them to understand about our platform. We want to do this all over the state with our SREC and Platform Committee members. We want unity. We want bringing the minorities like I did in many other areas. And we want to bring in the SREC. I will put together a committee that will consist of people of all categories so that we can work together. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. May God bless you, and may God bless this great land that we simply call Texas. Thank you.
Okay, and our candidate that drew number 5 is recognized. Mr. Chadwell Banks, if you'd like to come up and take the microphone. You will be going forward. Yes.
Hey, thanks everybody. I'm Chad Wilbanks, and I run to be your next chairman of the Republican Party of Texas. Here's a couple of things y'all know about me. I didn't jump in the race right off the bat. You know, as some SREC members call me, elected officials, county chairs, and some major donors. So I thought it was important to visit with as many of you as I could right off the bat. And I ended up spending time with 56 of y'all on the phone out of 62 members, including our Republican National Committee woman and man and vice chair. And after the conversations, here's what I took away from it. Leadership matters, experience matters, winning matters. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. I've been married for 27 years. I have 2 adult kids in college. One works for Congressman Kevin Brady, and my daughter's getting ready to intern for a conservative member of the Texas House. And I have a sweet 9th grade little girl getting ready to go to Lake Travis High School out in West Austin. I've also attended every GOP state convention since 1992. With one exception, that was in 1996 when I was employed at the Republican National Committee. Before going to the Republican National Committee while in college, I was chairman of the College of Republicans at our university, and when we realized it wasn't as conservative as we liked, we started the Young Conservative of Texas, which Stephen Terry founded all those years ago. We've been grassroots from the very beginning, and I made a career out of it to be successful. So after we left the Republican National Committee, we decided that it was time to come back home because my wife was about to have an 8th generation Texan. For you Texans, you know what a big deal that is. So we came back, and I ended up getting hired by the Texas Republican Party. I served as political director, deputy executive director, and executive director. When I served as deputy executive director and political director in 2002, we raised $17 million, a record that still stands today without outside money coming in. In fact, we were so successful because money is the message, money is the muscle of politics. You got to have it. Because it complements everything that the grassroots are doing on the ground game, the manpower that we need. That we took control of the Texas House for the first time in 132 years. You know, I got involved in politics when Republicans were the minority party. I've been fighting like crazy to make sure we sustain our majority. In 2004, I was executive director of the state convention for the Texas GOP. And it was the first time we'd ever raised over $1 million for a state convention. And more importantly, we left it debt-free. We also elected more Republicans to Congress that year than we ever did before. A record number of Republicans in D.C. from the state of Texas, more than any other state. So I'm proud of some of the things that we've done. And when I went out on my own, I started my own company. I've been in business for 17 years. I don't have any debt. We work hard, we have dedication, and we do what we can to survive. And one of the things that I started, right when I left the party, was a little thing called the GOP Leadership Conference. What we do there, for the past 11 legislative sessions, we have trained young staffers on how to think politically in the policy arena. That's something that y'all want with the Legislative Priorities Committee. We've got to train these folks on the ground early on. For 11 legislative sessions, we've been doing this. And speaking of the legislature, because I've talked to some of y'all about this, I'm a lobbyist. It was a concern for some of y'all. Let me tell you something about being a lobbyist. Just like the pro-lifers, the pro-Second Amendment folks, they have lobby people. I represent businesses too, to advance a conservative cause. That's important. We can never rest on what the liberals may do. But then I heard someone say, well, Chad, you are a taxpayer-funded lobbyist. You know, it's easy to put words together and mischaracterize what somebody does for a living. Let me tell you about that. There was one term with the 86th legislature. Had the county judge of Galveston County call me and say, Chad, we need some help. Well, the Galveston County Commissioners Court is one of the most conservative commissioners courts in the entire state of Texas. They're so conservative that they're the only commissioners court that have cut taxes for 10 consecutive years in the county. We're the only county in the 86th legislature that testified in support of SB 2, the property tax reform bill. In fact, we argued that it didn't go far enough. And sure enough, what we heard in the legislature this go around was that we were right. We need appraisal reform as well to complement the property tax cap they put on us. We also offered a bill that was so conservative that the current House Freedom Caucus chairman carried the bill for us to save county taxpayers money. I'm not going to apologize for being a lobbyist, even though some of y'all may want me to, because I've never wavered in my conservative principles in growing the party as best that we can, even at the grassroots level, the donor level, and at the professional level. I've been very successful at it, and I'm going to continue doing it. Let me tell you who the real enemy is this day, because we agree on 95% of the issues of today. It's not Republicans. It's the Marxist Democrats, the Marxist mob coming into our environment. You know, I was in Dallas recently for the kickoff of the voter registration training program. In fact, I was the only chairman candidate there. And I had some lady in the audience asked a question I was stunned at. But I was even more stunned at the response. The question was, what's our message? Well, as chairman of the Texas GOP, you got to be able to respond quickly. Here's our message. Here's what the Marxist Democrats want. I want you all to take notes because this is important. Here's what they're after. Defund the police. Critical hate theory. Oppose voter ID. They want to take God out of schools. They cherish and praise the destruction of U.S. history and culture of our country. They want late-term abortions. They want to release criminals from jail, and they oppose bail. That's what we're up against, y'all. It's not our own. And as your chairman, we're going to change that because all the candidates up here, we're not that far apart on the spectrum. We believe God created us in his own image and life begins at conception and ends at death. We all believe that. We believe that there's a worldwide invasion of illegals coming across our southern border, and we ought to stop it. We believe that we ought to have the right to bear arms because Marxist Democrats are allowing people to come into our homes, and the city governments are allowing riots to take place because they're defunding the police. Our home becomes our last line of defense. So here's what I'm going to do as chairman. I know how to raise money. In fact, I've driven the debate on fundraising. I've got major donors ready to write checks right off the bat because I'm a trusted face in their world. I got elected officials ready to write large checks because I'm a trusted face in their world. So the question you have to ask yourself is, do you want a party that keeps doing what it's doing right now? Or do you want somebody to go out there and raise money, unified, not endorse any other candidate for governor or any other elected official? Because whoever wins in the March primary is the one we're supporting in November. Look, guys, we got candidate recruitment or candidate filing deadline coming up in under 5 months. Do y'all have a game plan ready? Well, I do. And we're just not going to stop there. We've got school board elections. If we find Republicans to run for school board, we will win based on critical hate theory alone. And we cannot rest on our laurels from day one. So as your chairman, here's what I'm going to do. Because it's what parties are supposed to do. I'm going to raise money. I'm going to raise a lot of it. Because we've got to give our candidates the tools and resources they need to be successful on election day. I'm going to communicate our message of freedom, liberty, and individual rights. Let's talk about our platform. Words matter. And it pulls independence along as well. You know what the urban counties want, or urban areas want right now? They want safe schools for the kids. You know what that means? That means school choice. They want safe neighborhoods. You know what that means? They want us to fund the police. They want safe roads to drive on. It's not complicated. As Marxist Democrats try to annihilate regular Democrats, we have an opportunity to jump in. But we can't rest our laurels. We have to keep our eye on the ball in rural counties as well. And then we're going to elect candidates, finally, to repeal bad laws, pass good laws, and protect individual rights. The Marxist mob are coming. They're infiltrating our schools, our government, and our businesses. But guess what? Y'all are the heirs to the American Revolution, not them. Y'all have the God-given liberty to celebrate the accomplishments of what our founding fathers did, not let them destroy it. So as your chairman, as we walk through, we need to grow the party. And that involves increased training and expansion of our auxiliary groups, to give them the tools they need. It involves doing leadership conferences all over the state of Texas, so we have somebody in every city and town talking about the Republican brand. And I'm going to do this. We're going to travel the state, and we're going to talk about the Republican successes that we've had and the Democrats' mistakes that they've made. So when voters go to the polls, they know the difference between the two parties. I'm Chad Wilbanks. I appreciate your advice, your support, your prayers, and I'd love to have your vote. I love this state so much. I put everything into it my entire professional life. I'm going to continue to fight for it. So thank you. God bless you. God bless this great state we call home. Appreciate it.
Ladies and gentlemen, aren't we lucky to have such qualified individuals who are willing to stand up? I appoint the same 4 non-SREC members to the Tellers Committee. Glennis Chester, President for TFRW. Kara Chasteen, TRCCA Legislative Director. Tony Ann DeShield, RNC Committee Woman. And Robin Armstrong, RNC Committee Gal. Robin, if you would continue to serve as Chairman of the Tellers Committee. And nominees, each one of you is entitled to have 2 observers to witness the vote counting. And so if you would please identify who will be observing your counts. Mr. Rinaldi, who will be observing for you? Okay, Matt, Patrick, and Joe. And for Mr. Covey? Mr. Covey, who will be observing for you?
So whoever gives you a ballot, you can turn that ballot back to the police. Whoever gives you the ballot, you should do the ballot, you should turn it back to the police. That will make things faster. Give it back.
Mr. Birch will be serving as observer for you. Okay. And Mr. Wilbanks, who will be serving as an observer for you.
Gary Tango, Keith Sinclair. I hope that helps.
Thank you. Okay, now on the comment to ballot distribution. On the ballot, members, please write down 1 name for state chairman. The chairman, vice chairman, and each member of the SREC or SREC member's official proxy shall be entitled to receive 1 paper ballot. Thank you to the 4 members of the Tellers Committee who are already distributing the ballots. And we will wait for each member to receive one before we move on to the next piece.
We just passed up 64 ballots.
I want Okay, has every SREC member received a ballot? Looks like no one's concerned. Good. Kara. Okay. If I can have attention for just one moment, please. Has every SREC member voted who desires to vote? Then now voting is closed, and we will stand at ease while the votes are being counted. Thank you.
Let me get away from it.
I remember you leaving.
So
Chris, you might want to turn the mic off. Chris, you might want to turn the mic off.
Hello, sir. How are you, sir? No, we're just talking about seeing Trump at 6 p.m.
That's what she was saying, but I'm not here for it. That's what I said too.
We will come back to order now. And I call upon Robin Armstrong to give the Tellers Committee report.
All right, thank you very much. So, 64 votes were cast, and we received 64 ballots back. Necessary for election, we need 33 to win the election. We need a majority. Number of votes in number of order that they gave their speeches. Matthew Rinaldi received 34 votes. David Covey received 21 votes. Bill Birch received 3 votes, and Chad Wilbanks received 6 votes. And that adds to 64. That concludes my report.
So again, to announce the results of the 64 ballots cast, 33 were needed for a win. Matt Rinaldi wins 34 votes. David Covey receives 21 votes. Bill Birch receives 3 votes. And Chad Wilbanks receives 6 votes. We'd like to congratulate our new state party chairman, Matt Rinaldi.
Thank you very much. I do not take lightly the confidence that you've placed in me. And whether you voted for me or you voted for another candidate here, we're now members of the same body, and you will all be treated with the same respect. You will all be given the opportunity to have your voice heard at meetings, and you will all have my anytime you want. I think moving forward, we're obviously embarking on one of the most important elections of our lifetime. It's kind of a little cliche to say that, since every election seems to be the most important of our lifetime. But we are truly fighting for the America we want our children to live in. And the forefront of that fight is happening here in Texas. Texas, the state where everybody who believes in liberty and freedom across the country looks to set an example, to be the bulwark that holds the country for Republicans. We cannot lose Texas, and we will not lose Texas if we work together. So thank you, every one of you. I'm honored. I do not take this lightly, and I look forward to working with all of you. Moving on to the new chairman's report. I would like to postpone the appointment of officers so that we can give thought and consideration carefully to who holds those offices, and then we'll take it up at the next meeting. I will hope to have nominations as soon as possible. And that is all for the new chair's report. Thank you. I appreciate it. Does anyone have any announcements?
Stephen Stanley, FD2.
Chair recognizes Mr. Stanley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Would be remiss if we didn't also recognize our immediate past vice chair. Just recently lost her husband 3 or 4 weeks ago, Chris Jackson.
Could we all have a moment of silence for Mr. Jackson, please? Thank you. Any other announcements?
I'm going to apologize right away because I'm going to bring business to the body since we have not adjourned. It is my understanding that upon the election...
One sec. The chair recognizes Ms. Stanley.
Oh, Gail Stanley, SB15. You can tell I'm nervous. Thank you for knowing what I'm supposed to be doing. It is my understanding that upon the election of a chair that the appointments all have to be done and the positions are vacated. Is that correct?
That is correct, ma'am.
It is also my understanding that if the treasurer is vacated, that could be a problem with the TEC. Don't we have to have one on record?
The treasurer of record under Texas election law is the treasurer of record for TEC purposes until we file the appropriate documents to change that treasurer. That might not exactly correspond in time to the treasurer that is treasurer for purposes of our bylaws.
I understand that our current treasurer is in the audience. Can we have his assurance that he would continue to do the work of the treasurer until such time as a new one is appointed?
I have spoken with Mr. O'Hare, and I've also assured him that I will move with great alacrity in changing the treasurer and appointing the new treasurer. That will be the first matter I'll attend to. and Mr. O'Hare has agreed that he would assist the body in continuing to perform the functions until that's done.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your knowing right off the bat the answers to all the questions, and that was something that I expected you to know. I'm not surprised because you're heralded as someone who knows that kind of thing. Thank you for being chairman, and we're so pleased.
Thank you, Mr.
Mr. Chairman, Jill Glover, SD 12, Chair of the Legislative Priorities Committee.
Chair recognizes Ms. Glover.
Yes, we have just started special session, and I just want to encourage this body to please participate by going and testifying, encouraging people in their districts to please participate. We are going to continue the work of the Legislative Priorities Committee in terms of encouraging that constituent participation by emails and phone calls and personal testimony, and I would just like to remind everyone of that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Everybody is so reminded.
Dion Starnes, SD 30.
Chair recognizes Ms. Starnes.
Thank you. I am the chair of election integrity, and if y'all have noticed, there are several of us wearing these t-shirts with the tagline on the back, which is our focus on this. It is easy to vote and hard to cheat. Guys, this is coming to the floor Tuesday in the Senate, and we need to make sure that we are getting people there. There were over 300 there during the committee hearing in the Senate alone, and there were only 65 in favor of the bill. So we need to make sure that we are getting our people to the Capitol and showing our support for election integrity, which is our #1 priority. Thank you.
Congratulations, Mr. Rinaldi. And one of the visitors here wanted to start this off with a check, so I hope there's many more to follow, but here is a contribution to the Republican Party of Texas.
Thank you very much.
Sorry. Chairman Rinaldi, leading pageant, Texas Unified.
Rush required to lean over when.
First, on behalf of the Wires, I want to just congratulate you, be the first auxiliary to do that. So congratulations on your election. I also want to let everyone here know the YRs are going to have our convention on September 17th, 18th, and 19th in Round Rock, Texas. We would love all of you guys to join us for our gala on the 18th. And then finally, our policy director, Jason Vaughn, is hosting a dinner after this at Salt Grass. Yes? 6 p.m. for anyone who would like to come to that. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Padgett. And I apologize, I called you Mr. Brooks by accident, because you're both very tall. And have beards. Any other announcements? That being said, correct. I was going to hit the gavel for the end of the new business. Mr. Chadwick, ready for the benediction.
Coming up your way.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before you stand, have a seat. Thank you, Chair. We congratulate him on this. Thank you, Mr. Parliamentarian, who is not well thought of a lot of times because he works behind the scenes in front of us. Thank you, Mr. Parliamentarian. Thank you to the staff, who are very quiet and work very hard. And I want to thank you, the SREC members, for being here. It is good that you heard this is Sunday. This is a sanctuary. And although there was some bickering, you resolved it intelligently, and we took care of business. I want to thank, obviously, our vice chair, who acted chair today, and even the parliamentarian, and she and our secretary had to confer. But this is what this is about. I want to thank our immediate past chairman for appointing me to this position. Indeed, it is one of the highest that I've had, aside from being the command chaplain of 39 nations in Afghanistan for 330 days, boots on the ground. This is a very high honor. Before pronouncing benediction, I want to ask, where are our veterans? Will you stand? Where are the veterans? We argue and have our rivalries in service, but when you are in Afghanistan today, which is about 130 degrees, and the gear is 140 pounds per person right now. When you have a 19-and-a-half-year-old Marine in charge of 4 Marines and has the authority to call a $1 billion helicopter because that Marine has gone down, and then he has to go knock on the door when he gets back home and say, Mr. Johnson, do you have a moment for this Marine to talk about your son? That's the price of freedom. Sometimes I wonder, do we remember those things? Because these people, these veterans, who have missed birthdays and anniversaries and weddings and surgeries, have given their all for you. Before we pronounce the benediction, I want to remind you, it is easy to talk about what other people don't do, but when you don't do, and when you don't communicate, that's dishonesty. We are better than that. We are a people who free people like me. Frederick Douglass, Ida B. Wells, Sojourner Truth. Remember them? And remember that this party was started by 150 colored men and 20 white men in Houston, Texas. As we pray, I want you to do something you typically don't do, sit. And I want you to touch the person next to you. You can touch their arm, you can touch their hand. And know they're not trying to be flirtatious. So if you would just reach across and touch someone nearest you. Listen to these words for the last time as chaplain of the Republican Party of Texas that I serve. Prayer is a verb and not a noun. Prayer pivots on wisdom, tenacity, vision, courage, and hope, even when hope is not inevitable or visible. Prayer teaches and has the audacity to demonstrate honesty, integrity, and the echoes of Moses, David, Esther, Jesus, Paul, Peter, Frederick Douglass, Ida B. Wells, Juan Seguin, and others who lived out loud by demonstrating to the world we are not ashamed of our faith. And with this faith, go and live out loud the principles of difference making for such a time as this, because faith really matters. Amen. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, go in peace. Thank you, John.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn made by Mr. Dunham, seconded by Ms. Witt. Any opposed? Seeing none, meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
Help.
What y'all doing, man?
Get in there, girl.
Nice shirts.